Mark walked on, as everybody knows, because his nickname has always been the walk-on from Walk On. And truly, Mark Farley has not changed much since the time he was a student athlete through the years to now that he's a head coach. He was always a very focused student athlete, very good in academics and on the field, very focused and a very intense person. And he's that way today. I mean, he's very focused and he's very intense. Very loves UNI, has a passion for UNI, and I think that's why, one reason why UNI's teams are so well is because the years that we have that UNI connection from a former player to a coach, the teams always seem to do well, better than when we don't have that overall connection. So you know, he hasn't changed much. He's lost a little bit more hair, but he didn't have a whole lot of hair either when he was a student athlete.
I had gone to work for my dad right out of high school, which was basically gravel. We hauled gravel and did county roads and things like that, and basically crush rock. And so you get laid off in the winter. So I actually got another job with hauling Farm Bureau Safe Mark tires. And we actually would leave on Monday morning, early Monday morning, go down to Des Moines, pick up a load, travel that week, and then end back up and walk on the weekend. So a good friend of mine went to school here at UNI, so one of the Sunday nights, or I believe it was a Monday night, I decided to come down early, spend the night with him, and then continue on to Des Moines the next day. And that night is when he took me over. He said, "Hey, let's go over and watch a spring practice." It was in April. And so we jumped in his car, came over here and watched a spring practice, and that kind of ignited the fire again, that this is something that you wanted to do. And that's how it all started. And actually, I walked down on the football field after that practice, and I went up to Coach Denny Remmert at the time, and I asked him what's the process to go about to become a walk-on here at UNI. And that's how it all started.
Gary, when I mention the name Mark Farley, what does that mean to you?
I think it means UNI football. I mean, here's a guy with great passion for UNI football. Just the Mark Farley story of him walking on here at UNI. Wasn't going to play college football out of high school, and he comes into the Dome one day and looks around and says, "I'm going to come in here and walk on and play football." Developed that passion, became an All-American linebacker at UNI, then becomes a tremendous assistant coach for Terry Allen. Gets an opportunity to be the head coach. I mean, to me, when you talk UNI football, I mean, that's Mark Farley. Mark Farley is Panther football and has a great passion for it, a great love for it. He coaches the game the way he played the game, with great intensity, great love, great energy, and to me, it's synonymous. When you talk Panther football, it's Mark Farley.
Tough guy, compassionate guy, a loyal guy, a guy with a lot of energy, huge work ethic. A guy that believes in doing it the right way through hard work and developing your skills, but a guy that's got a gentle side as well, and I think a guy that believes in what we're trying to get done here, a guy that really believes in this university, a guy that believes in Iowa kids like him, who might come up without all the accolades, but understand that work ethic will a lot of times overcome talent. And a guy that I'd consider to be a friend, and a guy that will take time to work with people and try to help them. I think those are the qualities.
What makes Mark so different than other college coaches?
Well, I think what makes him different here is he knows UNI. He came up through this system. He was a walk-on here who had no scholarship and just developed his own way. And I think the other thing that I like about it is, in his regard, is he's a defensive coach. And I think if you're going to build championship football teams this day and age, you got to start on the defensive side of the ball.
Football is what ignited the fire as far as getting an academic and getting a college degree. So through athletics, even though that was first at the time, it became that the academic end of it became very important, and that's how I ended up getting a college degree. And actually, I'm an industrial arts teacher through the University of Northern Iowa.
You were named Gateway Conference Co-Defensive Player of the Year, 3-time First Team All-Conference, 2-time Honorable Mention, All-American, and twice was awarded Academic All-American. Talk about the rigors of football and the dedication to be a successful student?
Well, that's where there needs to be a balance of time. The biggest thing that student athletes deal with, and even as a student yourself you'll learn, is the practice time is one thing, but that's that 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 7, somehow you're coming or going to a practice or at the practice year long. But it's the budgeting of time outside of that, so when you get done, you got to go back home in the evening and get yourself prepared for the next day's classes, get your schoolwork done, and then you have to get up in the morning and go attend those classes. So it becomes a full day, and it's the budgeting of time and the balancing of that time is what's difficult, and that's where I think a lot of the student athletes really don't understand. It's not that time at practice. That's kind of a stress-relieving time. That's the fun part of everything, but it's that when you're done with practice, you have to get the energy to go home and study, because you're expected to also be the student part of the student athlete.
What makes Mark Farley the coach that he is and different from other coaches?
Well, again, I think number one, it's his passion for UNI to begin with. Not that he probably didn't have that passion when he was coaching at Kansas, because he loves the sport so much. He's a player's coach because he was a player himself, and he's relatively young yet, so I think he can relate well. From my perspective, I would say that I'm not so sure that the players really like him as a person, because he's so tough on them. They respect him as a coach, and they respect his football knowledge, but he's tough.
He's got it's pretty much like he's got another 120 kids that he's got to take care of, and he's always out with them. He's got to make sure that they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing with all their grades and stuff, and making sure that they're staying out of trouble and everything. So
he cares a lot about them too, just as much as our own kids.